To continue the exercise, and so that guide's automatically locked also, that's good. I need half-size versions of this, so I'm going to hold the Shift key. Actually start dragging first. It's a mistake I usually make, is to hold the Shift key before I start dragging. I'm going to start dragging this and hold the Shift key to constrain so I go straight down. It doesn't really make any difference because we're going to check the alignments later, but this is a good practice for doing this. I'm still holding the Shift key and I've got the mouse button held down. I'm going to hold the Alt key and then let go of everything, and I make a duplicate of whatever I'm dragging. Now I need these to be half as big. And, well, that's kind of a complicated way to do this. And for some reason, transform here isn't quite as the same as if we find the transform effect up here. Let's see, object, transform, there, scale, 50%. Command Z, undo that. I'm going to right click on this, and over here you'll see just by right clicking on these I have the same sort of menu, transform. I can do transform again. It'll repeat the last thing I did before I deleted those steps. Transform, scale, 50%. Okay, I'm going to move these up slightly. I'm going to need some more room for this stuff. Now, I need a bunch of these, and so I could shift, drag, and hold the Alt key and then let go. I could keep doing that, or I can duplicate the last thing I did. So the last thing I did was a shift, drag, and Alt, or shift, drag, Option, or Alt on the PC. I could keep doing that, but I could just hit Command D, which means duplicate the last thing that you did. And I can keep doing that on down the page to make sure I have lots of these in case I run out of them when I'm doing the next set of steps in this exercise. Now what I need is to combine these in different ways. I'm going to move this one over here somewhere. I'm going to add another square to it. I'm going to leave this one, actually I'm going to move this one here, and maybe do something with two circles. Oh, excuse me, wait a minute, I'm going to undo that. Command Z, back to where I was here, and I want that one to stay about there, this one about here. You'll notice that I get smart guys, which means it'll find the center of things, or an edge of things, and see if that's where I want to line it up. And in a lot of cases I do, sometimes I don't. And grab the three of these by dragging over them. And again, make sure that when you do that you're on the main selection tool, not the white arrow or direct select tool, because if you have the direct select tool and you drag over it like that and then move things, you can see that you're not moving what you think you're moving. Okay, I'm going to again use the main selection tool or object selection tool and select all of these, and then with my alignment palette I want to align these. Oops, notice I'm still on the page, so let's change that to align to selection. And I'll center align those, but you may recall that the triangle should be base aligned or bottom aligned to this red square, so I'll click that, hold the Shift key and click that one, and then if I Option or Alt click on this one, I get a bigger highlight on that, and that means that that is now a key object. So I will bottom align that so that I'm aligning this triangle to that key object. And then these should still be centered on each other, and they are. And I might just move those down a little bit because it seems a little crowded. Okay. Next item. Now I'm going to take two squares, maybe a circle and a circle, perhaps two triangles. And let's see, usually do a square and a circle. Let's do square and a triangle. Okay, now I have pairs of shapes or pairs of closed paths, and I have something called the Pathfinder palette, which I don't actually see in my layout setup. That's okay. I can, just out of curiosity, let's see if I do, let's try Essentials Classic. Maybe that's the one I should have been doing. No, I'm not seeing it there either. How about painting? Painting. Okay, notice that the Transform, Align, and Pathfinder palettes are usually a set. I mean, you can tear them off and change them and create your own sets, but by default, that's usually a set. Just pull those off there. You can drag these down to here just to get these smaller. You can always rearrange these things any way you want. Whatever palettes you want in whatever order or arrangement. Give me a little hand here to move this over a little bit. Pathfinder palette. Pathfinder palette has two things on it. It has shape modes and it has pathfinders. The shape modes do something the pathfinders don't. And if you are accustomed to, if you have some familiarity with Illustrator and you're used to going up to Object, select two things, Object, and finding, let's see, it's not there, maybe it's Effects, Pathfinder. These pathfinders under Effect do not all work the same way as the pathfinders on the Pathfinder palette, and it also includes other things that are not on the Pathfinder palette. I'd rather you didn't use those. You can explore those on your own, but for this exercise, I want you to understand how to use these shape modes and these pathfinders. So, selecting these two, if I click on the first one, which is Unite, it will turn this into a single path that has 8 segments. So you can see the black stroke goes all the way around the outside of the new path. If I Command Y to get into drawing mode as opposed to preview mode, you can see it's just a single path. Now, and again, Command Y to toggle back to preview. I don't want you to just push that button like that. I'm going to Command Z, undo that. And what I want you to do is notice that when I scroll over this, Unite, Alt-click or Option-click on the Mac to create a compound shape and add to shape area. Now what that means is that if I select these, hold the Alt key or the Option key and click on this, it looks like I've just done the same thing. The difference is that I could now take the Direct Select tool and select one of these and move around this subpath, and I still have a single fill and a single stroke around this new compound shape, but I can still modify these things within here. Another thing I could do, I'm going to go back to the main selection tool, double click on this and go into isolation mode on my compound shape, and I could now hold the Shift key and constrain and change this down to a smaller size. But I still have a single fill with a single stroke that goes around the perimeter of this pair of shapes that form a compound shape. So that's what I want to see when I'm grading these. I want to see that for each of the shape modes, you have used the Alt or Option key to make compound paths as opposed to just making it into an uneditable new shape. At least not editable in the way that I just showed. So, and I want you to go through these things in order, so that you are like creating a dictionary or a vocabulary of this tool palette. If I take these two and the next thing is minus front, that's what it looks like as just a click. Command Y, you can see that that part is gone. Command Y again to return to preview mode. Command Z to undo that, and this time I'm going to hold the Alt or Option key and click on minus front. And you can see that it looks the same, but I now have something I can still edit. And if I wanted to change the size of that, I could. Again, two shapes, select both of them, And this is the intersect. And this is what it looks like as an intersect without pushing the Alt or Option key. Command Y, that other part is gone. If I Command Z, undo that, and maybe I'll stick this here. I don't know, maybe there. Let's say there. Let's say I rotate that slightly. And then hold the Alt or Option key and click on intersect. And this is what we see, but if we don't like that, we could take the direct select tool and move this one around. Or we can use the main selection tool, double click, and go into isolation mode and find that square. And let's move it here. We could rotate this again. These are all things that I could not do if I just pushed this intersect button without the Alt key. I wouldn't be able to change these relationships to the pieces that I just combined. I'm going to do one more thing, and that is, it's Command Z to get back to there. I'm going to put the square in the front because I just thought since this is going to be yellow over here, maybe I'd like to do this one so that it comes out as a red shape. Okay. And finally, I've got one called exclude, and what that means is you get the two shapes, but where they overlap is excluded. And again, if I select both of them, push the button, I've got something that is permanently altered. And if I take my direct select tool, I can move these two shapes. But if I can Command Z undo, if I Alt or Option click on exclude, I can still modify this relationship. You know, maybe I'm doing a logo and I want it to look something like a teepee, and maybe look like that, like a letter A. Well, if it's a letter A, then usually it's thinner on the left side than it is on the right side. So maybe that would be my logo. Okay, so that's the shape modes. And then I'd kind of like these, again, main selection tool, select these and align them. And if they don't appear to be visually centered, feel free to move it down. Left and right, you can distribute them so that they're centered relative to, or spaced out relative to their centers. If you had a particular distance, you can also use the distribute spacing this way, but you would have to have a key object, so you'd alt click on this one and say you want them all to be 2 inches apart or something. You could, or 1/4 of an inch apart, you could do that, like say this 3/8 of an inch, and say distribute this way. But I think in terms of left and right, what we want to do is, and do this again when you're all done, select everything in the first column, hold the Alt key, click on the top object to make it a key object, and then center. These won't center under that because it just doesn't work out when you've got one row that has 4 items, but you can center these to the artboard. They already are, and that's fine. And this one probably stayed centered here, but if I add this one, I might have to center those. Whoops, and it's again not to the page, so let's go to the selection, or Alt or Option click on the top object and center align it to the top object.